I think it's held up exceptionally well. I think Bitcoin bulls should be inspired by the performance, and it's set up to rally significantly if we get a period of stability in the broader equity markets. It's worth remembering the last time we had true economic chaos during the start of COVID, Bitcoin wicked down to $5,000 and even below that. Today, we're talking about $80,000. It's a different asset. It has a broader distribution of institutional ownership. And again, I think what it's telling you is once this market volatility stabilizes, we're going to see it return to new all-time highs and then beyond. It's really a display of strength from my perspective.
What role does cryptocurrency play in a world where these currencies across the world are becoming more volatile?
I love that question. I think the answer to who wins in this currency war is Bitcoin, right? When I watched all the tariff confusion play out and what will Trump do and what will China do and how many bilateral deals will we negotiate, the thing that's clearest to me from all that is that we should expect the US dollar to move lower, that we're moving from a world of the US dollar being the sole reserve currency to a world with potentially multiple reserve currencies. Bitcoin benefits when fiat currencies go lower. Bitcoin benefits when there's new space for reserve assets. I think it's the cleanest investment response to the chaos and confusion we're seeing from this tariffs, specifically because it's the hedge against fiat currency debasement. And I think we're setting up for that in the US, in China, in Europe, and around the world.
On the president's threat yesterday on social media to increase tariffs against China by an additional 50% in response to their retaliation, has he signed anything in terms of an executive order, any documentation around that? Will that additional 50% go into effect tomorrow?
They will be going into effect at 12:01 a.m. tonight, so effectively tomorrow, yes.
I'm curious, though, under what conditions at this point would President Trump talk to President Xi about tariffs?
Look, I just spoke to the president about this, and he believes that China wants to make a deal with the United States. He believes China has to make a deal with the United States. It was a mistake for China to retaliate. The president, when America is punched, he punches back harder. That's why there will be 104% tariffs going into effect on China tonight at midnight. But the president believes that Xi and China want to make a deal. They just don't know how to get that started. And the president also wanted me to tell all of you that if China reaches out to make a deal, he'll be incredibly gracious, but he's going to do what's best for the American people.
So China has to call first?
The Chinese want to make a deal. They just don't know how to do it. But the president will be implementing these 104% tariffs on China tonight.
And then the president on Thursday told us that there was an incredible discovery that the Doge team had made. He called it horrible and incredible. Can you reveal that yet? Give us details on what it was about?
There has been a discovery. I hate to leave you hanging on a cliff, but I don't want to get ahead of the president on that. But I can confirm there has been a discovery. It's just not quite yet ready for release.
Instead, they've been messaging to the state and social media, particularly to two influencers, one who's linked to the state news agency Xinhua, and the other one who's a nationalistic blogger, the possible next steps. So these two folks had listed out 6 measures. So these are to suspend the cooperation on fentanyl, ramp up tariffs on red state farm imports, so those that are friendly to President Trump, ban imports of U.S. poultry, target U.S. services in China, so this includes finance, law firms, consultancies, cut or ban U.S. film imports, and then investigate U.S. firms' intellectual property gains in China. And they cited the Ford CEO recently talking up Chinese EV technology. So
I think it was a big mistake, this Chinese escalation, because they're playing with a pair of twos. Traditionally, if you look at the history of the trade negotiations, we are the deficit country. So what do we lose by the Chinese raising tariffs on us? We export 1/5 to them of what they export to us. So that is a losing hand for them.
Well, 2 things there. Number one, from the Trump administration, no tariffs on energy across the board. I think that's central. Energy is the infrastructure that enables everything else in our economy. And 2 big points on why President Trump's, what's the goals of his tariff policies? Sometimes we lose sight of the forest for the trees here.
Oh, I think the likelihood, I think it's more likely than not that we're going to have a recession. And in the context of a recession, we'll see an extra 2 million people be unemployed. We'll see losses in household income that are $5,000 a family or more. We're very likely, in the context of a recession, to see markets reach levels significantly below their current levels. So I think we could be looking for fairly serious economic problems, and I think it will cast a shadow forward, because if we have a recession, the budget deficit will go up, the accumulated debt that we have to deal with will go up, there'll be financial distress that will affect higher risk companies and also higher risk countries in the global economy.
I'm going to go into the first one. There's the short term, and I think the short term, frankly, looks awful. Unless someone blinks, and I don't know, maybe you saw someone looks like they're going to blink. I didn't. Sure, there will be a lot of merchandise stuck in Chinese factories and ports. While that's certainly bad for them, it's not really good for us. Just because they lose doesn't necessarily mean we win. Plus, these tariffs are total anathema to one of the biggest companies in the world, and that company is Apple. Now, not all of Apple's merchandise is made in China, but a lot of it is, and you're now looking at a 23% decline in 4 days for the stock of one of the greatest companies on earth. The president was well aware that this could be a problem for Apple, which had committed to more than $500 billion investment in the United States. I know some investors probably thought that that $500 billion might have somehow bought Apple some immunity, but the only immunity you get from this White House is if you pick up your manufacturing in another country and you plop it down in the United States. And you know what? That's actually an unrealistic goal. It can't be done. I don't know how many times I can say that, but you can't build dozens of factories in the United States since Election Day and have them fully staffed pumping out iPhones. It doesn't work like that. Even in the best case scenario, it would take a long, long time, and this is not the best case scenario. Doesn't matter. The changes that necessitate moving are happening anyway. Apple makes the best, most beloved product we have. Now its stock is being eviscerated because President Trump won and Vice President Harris lost. Was Apple's Tim Cook supposed to know that? And why did Apple stock trade up to $190 today before finishing way down $172? That's almost an unfathomable range for this huge capitalization stock.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And you know I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And make sure you're joining the Patrons. If you're not a part of the Patrons, make sure you're hitting the Cash App. And also, guys, make sure you go like and follow the TikTok. More videos to come. And we had a volatile day in stocks and cryptos. And if you're a trader, you got to love it. And guys, remember, stop loss is definitely your friend. And remember, the Crypto Teacher told you. And I told you in the earlier video, the volatility is not going anywhere. You could look at the VIX, and then also we saw yield rate spike out of nowhere. And the repo today was only about 8 to 10 billion more from the previous day. So they allowed yield rates to rise. But these Trump tariffs are changing the whole supply chain. And I'm going to get into that later. Now we had Matt Hogan from Bitwise says that Bitcoin is holding up well with all the volatility. But just like stocks, same thing with cryptos. When the Fed is pumping money, of course these assets are pumping. When the Fed is shrinking and taking money, these stocks and cryptos move down. But we know this is all for so they can build its fourth industrial revolution. Never forget the plan. And he says that Bitcoin and crypto is going to win the currency war. And there's going to be more than one reserve currency. And those who've been with me from the beginning know we heard that from Jerome Powell. The U.S. and China collision has started. And this is going to bring on the new digital economy. The United States dollar gets devalued, go to a level playing field. We already see China right now manipulating their currency and then also moving their goods. And we know in the United States that's going to cause pain. And don't let anyone tell you anything different. But fiat is definitely done. And we know the Fed printed 80% of all money in existence in 2 years, which drove up inflation, and that eventually drove countries off the dollar. Again, this is a plan. It moves in phases. And we have Trump tariffs go into effect tonight if we don't get some type of news on China. And China's going to be paying over 100% in tariffs. And don't forget, China makes all of our items. You can't make this stuff up. And we know the sheep have no clue. They're focused on things that don't matter. But I hope you're listening in closely. She stated that China is not communicating with us. They're using bloggers to communicate the message online. Guys, you can't make this stuff up. Even she had to start laughing. Guys, remember, your life is an illusion, and TV is your reality. And we have Scott Bessent says that China is making a big mistake. And again, China has moved their items over to the emerging markets. They're flooding the emerging markets with the items. There's a whole lot more people in emerging markets than it is in America, so they can sell those items a little cheaper. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And of course, Trump has no tariffs on energy. Why? Because they need to build this fourth industrial revolution. And Larry Summers says that tariffs can cause a recession. Of course, recession cause job loss. But we've already seen all these jobs that have been lost, but a lot of them have been planned. These corporations don't want to take a hit, so they're going to slowly get rid of the people, but then add the robots, algorithms, and drones so the corporations are not taking a hit. And then eventually roll out universal basic income. And remember, the crypto teacher told you. And we have Jim Cramer on the tariffs. Talks about the supply chain being interrupted, and Apple will take a hit. And I've been telling you this for over 2 years. Once China and America go into conflict, Apple is going to take a hit. But don't forget, they have hundreds of billions of dollars sitting on the sideline for something big. It's for a reason, and the same thing with Warren Buffett. And when it comes to the market, in this environment, this is for stock pickers and traders. And like I told you, the VIX is telling you that the volatility is not going anywhere just yet. And we have Germany getting ready for the digital economy. And anytime we hear money being spent on defense, what is it really being spent on? That's right, the fourth industrial revolution. And then on top of it, guys, we know these emerging markets are about to rise. We can clearly see the plan. Only thing they need is that crisis in order to bring in all this technology. And we know that we're definitely close. Remember, Trump only has a few years to land us in this fourth industrial revolution. And we have Walgreens going private in the fourth quarter. And we're going to see a lot of these companies going private and a lot of M&A deals. There's going to be so much consolidation over the next 2 years. And like I told you in the NWO book, these corporations are going to be your new government. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the NWO, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Apple is planning to temporarily source more iPhones from India to send to the United States in a bid to offset the impact of President Trump's tariffs on China. That's according to a Wall Street Journal report that says Apple is hoping to win an exemption from Trump's Chinese tariffs and currently views the state of play between the United States and China as too uncertain to make drastic changes to its supply chain.
Mag 7 hit especially hard in the recent sell-off. The group now down more than 30% from that 52-week high. Fast money trader Karen Feinerman is in Los Angeles today at CNBC's Changemaker Summit. We'll get to that in a minute. But first, Karen, good to see you. How are you handling all this market turmoil? Did you do anything today?
I think medicated might be the best answer. No, I'm always long, and this is the kind of market that's challenging, of course, for that kind of strategy. But I really look at the VIX, and when I see the VIX spike, I mean, the movement in the VIX today, as you all know, I don't know if you talked about it early in the show, of course, was extraordinary. So when the VIX gets this high, I'm going to look to cover some hedges, which gets me longer. So that's what I'm doing. I'm kind of, I want to make sure I own things with great balance sheets. As I said, I am heavy Mag 7, so Meta is a big position, Amazon, now second biggest position. And that's where I feel comfortable staying. It is not my strategy to try to time the market. I have no ability to do that, and I think it's almost impossible to do. So I've got to stick with things that I'm comfortable owning, balance sheets that are great, businesses that have moats. Clearly, everything's going to be affected if we don't resolve this tariff situation soon.
Then there was this memo from Shopify CEO Tobias Lutke making the rounds in tech circles this week, where he calls reflexive AI a baseline expectation, essentially a new standard operating layer for his company. It was reposted by startup founders, venture investors, Microsoft, OpenAI executives, all echoing the same message: use AI or fall behind.
Itself would have been a story of a lifetime, is that Germany basically has scrapped the debt brake and is looking to spend 800 billion euros on essentially infrastructure and defense and an overall fiscal package. Then in itself, again, would probably be the story of the year. The other thing is all the other countries kind of around the U.S. have focused on, instead of like directly focusing on retaliatory moves in terms of the way we're thinking about trade uncertainty, they're also focusing on fiscal stimulus and trying to boost their domestic economy. So what we've seen is a massive pivot from overbought U.S. dollar, overbought U.S. assets, which again we're very heavily positioned for going into the start of 2025, and we've seen a rotation to non-U.S. equities, non-U.S. assets, non-U.S. currencies. And again, the big jump has come from the fact that over time, these countries are going to likely outgrow the U.S., at least over the next couple of quarters, over the next 6 months, over the next year. And the other thing that's very, very critical to think about is these are all the value trades in markets. So when people talk about value in equities, there's also value in currencies. And all the undervalued currencies are the countries that have been saving and running very low interest rates over the last 5 to 10 years.
All right, Walgreens just reporting, company coming in with earnings of 63 cents a share. That beat expectations of just 53 cents. The revenue also beating expectations. The company, though, does say it's withdrawing its full-year guidance, citing its agreement last month to be taken private by Sycamore Partners in a $10 billion deal. That transaction expected to close in the fourth quarter of this year. You can see the stock right now up by about 2.7%.
Going to a different economy, and we're going to be learning more about that as we go, but clearly, we're learning that things can be done from remote locations. We're learning that technology can replace people even more than we thought.
We're not going back to the same economy. We're recovering, but to a different economy, and it'll be one that is more leveraged to technology. And I worry that that is going to make it even more difficult than it was for many workers.
In Silicon Valley, and my friends who work in technology know that what we did to the manufacturing workers, we are now going to do to the retail workers, the call center workers, the fast food workers, the truck drivers, and then even bookkeepers, accountants, insurance agents, lawyers, and on through the economy. So what happened to the manufacturing workers is a very clear sign.
And so we'll import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
But every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every private business, every piece of real estate will eventually be a token on a blockchain, an entry on a ledger, permanent and immutable. We will have truth instead of trust, and we will save over $7 trillion a year. 6 to 8% of global GDP is wasted by the friction of the trust industry that's necessary when you have dual entry accounting. With triple entry accounting, which is what a blockchain is, we get rid of all of that friction. It's a beautiful future.
Like what you see in China and their social credit scoring systems, right? If we get identity wrong, it could be a tool to enslave humanity. And if we get it right, it could be a tool to liberate humanity. And as an American, I'm obviously rooting for the one that's on the side of freedom.
Bitcoin is an international asset. And also, I do believe the role of crypto is, it's digitizing gold.
I actually believe
This technology is going to be very important. Look at it. We have been part of a huge revolution in investing through ETFs. We believe that ETFs will be changing the whole way we invest. Many people still use it as a means, people are investing it for indexing. No, the majority of people who are putting money in in ETFs are active investors that are buying exposure. The entire bond market is being transformed as we talk right now. I believe the next generation for markets, the next generation for securities will be tokenization of securities. And if we could have that distributed ledger that we know every beneficial owner, every beneficial seller, we all have our code of who's buying, who's selling, instantaneous settlement. And think about it, it changes the whole ecosystem.
Chinese bank ICBC has been hit by a ransomware attack, and the U.S. Treasury market, as a result of that, has been disrupted. This, according to the Financial Times. We're getting at more right now with Bloomberg's Shonali Bassick. Shonali, what do we know?
Listen, we have the Financial Times now reporting that ICBC, one of China's largest banks here, was hit with a ransomware attack. And remember, they're a very significant intermediary in the Treasury market. The SIFMA has told its members that this has been part of the reason here that the system is kind of clogged up, if you will, during that auction that we saw a little bit before. The attack had prevented ICBC, according to the Financial Times, from settling Treasury trades on behalf of other market participants. A large executive at a major bank also telling the paper that such a large party on the fixed income clearing corp creates major concerns, potentially impacting the liquidity of Treasury markets. Now,
it was not just a poor auction. It was absolutely lousy, and when the dealers have to step in to save a Treasury auction, that's a rare occurrence.
Cryptoteacher and the New World Order book, plus the 3 kids books. It's time to re-educate. Also, new to cryptos, Coinbase, Bitrue, Binance. Do not forget book links and crypto links are in the description. The stock channel, guys. Don't forget to go like, subscribe, spread everywhere. You have your Kobo, your chip stocks, your banking, your gaming. While everybody's sitting at home, get on stocks, the Seaver, the biotech stocks. And while everybody's at home wishing they were still getting that free money, what are they doing? Drinking and smoking weed. Don't forget about those stocks, and you have a wonderful day. The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids books. You know I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the 4th Industrial Revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Grandma Tam save New York from COVID-33. Part 3. King Joshua and Grandma Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.